Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're cutting through some of the noise around IT service management. We're going to focus on something critical, something that affects pretty much every digital interaction you have.
That's right.
We're going to unravel change enablement and release management in ITIL 4.
Two really key practices.
Absolutely. And our mission for you today is simple. Get a really clear understanding of how IT services evolve, how they improve, without causing total chaos.
Yeah, avoiding the chaos is key.
This isn't just dry theory. It's about giving you a shortcut, really, to balancing that speed everyone wants with the stability everyone needs.
Whether you're studying for your ITIL 4 foundation exam, or maybe you're looking to apply these ideas in your IT career.
Exactly.
That's right. We'll explore how organizations can actually facilitate beneficial changes, how they mitigate risks, and crucially, how they smoothly deploy new features.
And we're drawing directly from insights in Dr. H.Schuessler's book, Mastering ITIL 4 for Information Systems Professionals, a practical guide for service management and certification success.
It's a great resource.
Yeah.
This deep dive is really all about giving you that practical edge.
Okay, let's unpack this then. In ITIL 4, we've got these two powerhouse practices. They really work hand in hand.
They do.
To make sure IT is enabling business progress, not, getting in the way. So could you walk us through change enablement first? What's its core purpose?
Sure.
And maybe what's the big shift from what people might traditionally think of as change management?
Absolutely. So change enablement is all about adding, modifying, or removing anything that could possibly affect IT services.
Okay.
But, and this is the key part, doing it in a controlled and, importantly, an agile way.
Agile. Right.
Its official purpose, straight from the book, is to maximize the number of successful service and product changes by ensuring that risks have been properly assessed, authorizing changes to proceed, and managing the change schedule.
Okay, so maximizing success, assessing risk, authorizing, scheduling.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here, I think, and the biggest shift, is that it's no longer just about being this, rigid gatekeeper.
Right, the old change prevention department.
Exactly. It's about becoming a facilitator.
Yeah.
Actively looking for the safest, but also the fastest path to saying yes to business innovation.
Okay, so enabling, not just controlling.
Precisely. It actually requires a fundamental cultural shift where risk is managed proactively, collaboratively, not just avoided.
That distinction sounds subtle, but I can see how it would be really impactful for, anyone navigating an IT career today. How does release management fit into this picture then?
Well, it's crucial because change enablement protects users and customers from negative impacts while still allowing for rapid innovation.
Okay.
Now, release management goes hand in hand with that. Change enablement focuses on authorizing the decision to proceed.
The gonna go.
Exactly. Release management is focused on the actual implementation, the deployment of those new or changed bits into the live environment.
Getting it out there.
Getting it out there safely. Its purpose is to make new and changed services and features available for use.
Makes sense.
So think of it like this. A change might be a single tweak, like updating a server setting or fixing a small bug.
One specific thing.
Right. A release is usually a collection of those changes, maybe one, maybe many, bundled together,
Okay.
deployed as a unit. Like launching a whole new version of an app, that release probably contains lots of individual changes, features, fixes, back-end stuff.
Gotcha.
Release management makes sure all those pieces, the code, the documentation, maybe even training materials, get delivered smoothly and reliably.
So it's about making sure everything is ready for prime time.
Exactly. Coordinated and ready.
Okay, this is where it gets, I think, really interesting. And maybe where organizations stumble if they don't quite grasp the nuances. Not all changes are created equal, right? ITIL 4 breaks them down into 3 main types. Can you walk us through those and maybe why recognizing these distinctions is, so powerful?
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding these categories is fundamental to optimizing your whole change process. So first up,
Okay.
standard changes. These are your pre-authorized ones. Low risk. They follow a really well-established, repeatable procedure.
Like routine stuff.
Exactly. Think resetting a password, adding standard storage to a VM, deploying a minor, well-tested patch. They're so common, so predictable.
Right.
They don't need a full review every single time. They just follow a pre-approved workflow.
So you don't need a big meeting for a password reset.
Please know, the real power here isn't just the low risk. It's the potential for efficiency through automation.
Yeah. Okay.
Organizations that fail to spot these and automate them often just drown in pointless paperwork. It slows everything down. Many organizations automate like 70% or more of these.
Wow, 70%. Okay, what's next?
Normal changes. Now, these are the ones that do need to be scheduled, assessed, and authorized using sort of full change enablement process.
A standard process.
Right. They range from moderate risk to significant risk. They get evaluated case by case.
Example.
Things like upgrading a big company system, like an ERP system, maybe migrating a complex database to the cloud.
Okay, bigger stuff.
Bigger stuff. They usually need a formal request for change, an RFC. They go through risk assessment approval steps. And that approval might just be a single manager for lower risk ones, or it could go up to a full board for the really impactful changes. This is where that balance of scrutiny and agility really matters.
Right, finding the sweet spot. And the third type?
Emergency changes. These are urgent, immediate, usually in response to something critical that's impacting the business now.
Like a fire drill.
Kind of, yeah. Like applying a security patch for something that's being actively exploited right now. Or restoring a network service that's taken down critical operations.
High stakes.
Very high stakes. They carry high risk if you mess them up, but delaying them is often even riskier.
Sure.
So they use an expedited approval process. Often involves an emergency change advisory board, or ECPA, for quick, decisive action. You accept a bit more risk sometimes just to get the service back or secure the system.
Okay, standard, normal, emergency. Makes sense.
Okay.
So who actually gives the green light for these different types? You mentioned change authority and this CAB.
Yeah.
What do they do? And how does ITIL 4 stop them from becoming, the bottlenecks they're supposed to prevent?
Good question. The change authority is basically just the person or group who has the responsibility to authorize a specific change.
Okay.
And that authority can be centralized or it can be spread out depending on the risk level.
Makes sense.
Now, for higher risk changes, that's often where a change advisory board, CAB, comes in.
The CAB?
Right. It's usually a committee. You'll have stakeholders like senior tech leads, service owners, maybe business managers, people who can advise on the change and approve it.
Different perspectives.
Exactly. They make sure you've considered everything, technical stuff, business impact, user experience. Yeah. But, and this is where ITIL 4 is smart, it strongly advises against making every single change go through a full CAB meeting. That's a classic way to create massive delays.
Right. Death by committee.
Totally. So for standard changes, the authority might be automated.
Right.
For lower risk normal changes, maybe a peer review is enough, or just one manager signs off.
Okay.
Only the really high-risk, high-impact changes typically go to the full CAB. That way, their time is focused where it adds the most value.
Okay, let's do a quick check-in here. Thinking about this, you listening out there, imagine your IT team needs to replace, say, 20 failing printers with new ones.
Okay.
It's a common task. There's a documented procedure. It's been done successfully before. Management's even pre-approved the general idea.
Right.
Take a second. What type of change would you classify that as? And what kind of approval might it need?
That ability to categorize correctly is just fundamental, isn't it?
It seems like it.
That scenario sounds like a textbook standard change.
Okay.
Because it's pre-authorized, it's low risk, follows an established procedure. It would typically be auto-approved or follow a very streamlined, predefined path.
Right.
And the power of recognizing that is you skip all the unnecessary bureaucracy. It flows quickly, frees up people to focus on the complex stuff that really needs human brain power.
Speed and stability.
That's the goal.
Okay, so we know the types. How does a change actually move through the system? What does that change enablement workflow look like?
Right, so it's not just a checklist. It's more like a carefully orchestrated process designed to minimize surprises.
Okay.
Typically, you got steps like, first, change request submission. Someone sees a need new feature, bug fix, upgrade, and submits an RFC, a request for change.
Step 1, log the request.
Yep. Then, initial review. Someone checks it's complete. Standard or emergency changes might get fast-tracked right here based on the rules.
So you filter them early.
Exactly. Avoid putting a password reset through the same process as a huge system migration.
Good point.
Then, assessment and risk analysis. This is key. Experts look at impact, urgency, resources needed, dependencies. And crucially, they define a backout plan.
Ah, the escape hatch.
The escape hatch. How do you reverse the change if it goes wrong? This is critical and sometimes gets overlooked.
I can imagine.
Next, approval, authorization. The designated change authority gives the thumbs up.
Okay.
Then planning and scheduling. You detail how the change will happen and put it on the forward schedule of change, FSC. That's basically a calendar of all planned changes. Vital for visibility.
Everyone knows it's coming.
Right. Then implementation. You actually do the change following the plan.
The doing part.
The doing part.
Yeah.
Followed immediately by validation and testing. Did it work? Did it achieve what we wanted? If not, or if it broke something else.
Back out plan time.
Back out plan time straight away. And finally, review and closure. Document the results, capture lessons learned in a post-implementation review or PIR, and formally close the change record.
That feedback loop.
Essential for getting better next time.
That emphasis on the back out plan really jumps out at me. Why is that specific step so crucial? What's the biggest mistake you see organizations make by maybe not having a robust one?
It's absolutely critical because, despite our best efforts, things can and sometimes do go wrong.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law in IT, exactly. A solid back-out plan is your insurance policy. It's not pessimism, it's just thorough planning.
Right.
The biggest mistake, either not having one at all, or maybe worse, having one that's just theoretical, like never tested.
We'll figure it out if it happens.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. Without a clear, practiced back-out plan, a failed change can spiral into long outages, data loss, huge business disruption. It turns a hiccup into a crisis. It's all about minimizing that blast radius if something unexpected occurs.
Minimizing the blast radius. I like that. Okay, so changes are approved, planned, back-out plan is ready. How do they actually get deployed? That's where release management kicks in, right?
Precisely. Release management takes those approved changes and gets them into the hands of users. It has its own life cycle, too.
Okay.
Starts with release planning. This means figuring out which approved changes are going into this release, which services are affected, assessing release-level risks. It's about bundling things into a coherent, manageable package.
Grouping changes together.
Right. Then build and test release. The components are built, integrated, and the whole release package gets tested. Not just the individual changes, but how they work together.
Integration testing.
Integration testing, system testing, maybe user acceptance testing, UAT, making sure everything plays nicely together.
Social.
Then deployment, making the release live. And there are different ways to do this. You could do a big bang, everything goes live at once, higher risk usually, or phased, roll it out gradually, maybe by region or user group.
Safer.
Generally safer, yeah. Or you see modern DevOps techniques like blue-green deployment, run the new version alongside the old, they just flip the switch. Or canary releases, roll out to a tiny group of users first, monitor closely, then expand.
Lots of options there.
Lots of options, tailored to the risk and context. After deployment comes early life support and review. You watch the new release closely in production for any immediate issues.
Babysitting it.
A bit of babysitting, yeah.
Yeah.
Followed by a review. Was it successful? What went well? What didn't? Learn lessons.
Okay.
And finally, release closure. Formally close the release, document everything.
It really highlights how much coordination is needed, doesn't it? Dev, ops, documentation, maybe support teams?
Absolutely. It takes a village, like you said, to release something smoothly.
Okay, another quick thought for you listening. Your team is getting ready to deploy a big update to the company's mobile app. Lots of new features. What are two key strategic things a release manager absolutely must ensure happen before that release goes live? Think about the impact.
Yeah, with something user-facing like a mobile app, the release manager needs a holistic view. Two absolutely vital steps. First, ensuring the whole release package has gone through really thorough end-to-end testing in a production-like environment. Not just the new features in isolation, but how they interact with everything else. Existing features, back-end systems, different phone types.
The whole ecosystem.
The whole ecosystem. And second, equally critical, making sure users or key stakeholders have been effectively communicated with.
The human element.
Yes. About the new features, any potential disruption or downtime, how to get help if they need it. Without solid testing and clear communication, even a technically perfect release can be a failure from the user's perspective.
User frustration, unexpected behavior. Yeah, I can see that.
Definitely.
Okay, so this brings us to a really important point. Today's IT world is fast-paced, often driven by DevOps principles.
Very much so.
A lot of people still think ITIL, equals slow bureaucratic processes. Do these structured practices actually hinder agility, or can they somehow accelerate things, make IT faster and more resilient?
That's a really common question, and honestly, a bit of a misconception. Many assume ITIL and DevOps are fundamentally opposed.
Right, oil and water.
But ITIL 4 was explicitly designed to be flexible. It's meant to support DevOps, not fight it. The key is integrating these practices smartly, especially with modern automation tools.
How does that work?
Well, think about a typical DevOps pipeline, right? Code moves rapidly. Build, test, deploy.
CI/CD.
Exactly, CI/CD. ITIL's change enablement doesn't have to be a roadblock outside that pipeline. It can be a strategic control point within it, especially that final check before deploying to production.
Okay, integrated control.
Precisely. For example, you can have tools like ServiceNow Change Management talk directly to your CI/CD tools, Jenkins, GitHub Actions, Azure DevOps, whatever you use.
Automation.
Yes. When a deployment starts in the pipeline, it can automatically trigger ServiceNow to create a change record. It can auto-populate details straight from the pipeline code version, developer, target environment.
Oh.
Now, if it's a low-risk standard change based on rules you've defined, ServiceNow can even auto-approve it.
No human touch needed.
For those low-risk ones, exactly. The pipeline just continues, no delay. But if it's a higher risk, normal change, the pipeline can pause at a specific gate. It waits for a human approval in ServiceNow, maybe from a CAB member, before it proceeds.
Okay, so it preserves governance, audit trails,
Right.
without someone manually stopping and starting things or rerunning jobs. But are there common pitfalls when organizations try this? Where does it not always go smoothly?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. While the theory is sound, getting the implementation right can be tricky.
I bet.
A common pitfall is like over-automating everything, failing to really nail down the risk categories properly, or not reviewing those auto-approval rules regularly. Things change. Risks change.
Set it and forget it doesn't work.
Not really, no. Another mistake is going the other way, designing the process so every deployment needs manual approval, regardless of risk. Then you're right back to the bottleneck you tried to escape.
Defeats the purpose.
Exactly. The real win comes when you carefully define what standard means for your context, build automation around that, and save the human checks for the genuinely complex or high-impact stuff.
Got it. Smart automation.
When you get it right, the integration delivers real benefits. Speed, obviously less manual work, fewer delays, accuracy, automated records, consistent data, and robust traceability, every single deployment linked back to an approved change.
The traceability is huge for compliance.
Huge. Think about a financial company, right? Strict regulations. They use Jenkins for pipelines, ServiceNow for changes. Developer wants to deploy a new microservice version.
Okay.
Jenkins automatically opens a normal change in ServiceNow. If the rules say it's low impact, ServiceNow auto-approves it in minutes, Jenkins deploys. Done.
Slick.
But if it's high risk, maybe affects customer accounts, ServiceNow flags it, routes it to a CAB member for manual approval, maybe even an emergency ESAV review if needed, then Jenkins proceeds.
So low risk flows fast, high risk gets scrutiny.
Exactly. Agility and assurance. Best of both worlds.
Okay, final thought experiment for you listening. Your organization is desperate to deploy faster, more often. Really embrace that rapid release idea.
A common goal these days.
What's one key strategic principle you could implement to weave change enablement into an automated CI/CD pipeline, maintaining control without killing speed? And what's the biggest enabler you'd need for that?
Okay, the strategic principle, I'd say, is using automated change creation combined with intelligent risk-based approval gates right within the pipeline.
Intelligent gates.
Yeah. And the absolute biggest enabler for that, having crystal-clear, well-documented criteria for what counts as a low-risk standard change in your specific organization.
Defining standard is key.
It's foundational. If you can define those criteria really well, then the pipeline can automatically create the change request, check it against the rules, and if it matches standard, auto-approve it. Pipeline keeps going.
Velocity for most things.
While preserving human oversight for the important exceptions. That's how you get speed without chaos.
Makes sense. So zooming out a bit, it's important to see how these two practices, change enablement and release management, aren't just off in their own little silo, right?
No, absolutely not. They're integral to the whole ITIL 4 framework. They weave through everything.
How so?
Well, think about the service value chain, the core ITIL operating model. Change and release contribute significantly to pretty much every activity.
Really? Like what?
From planning, they inform strategic planning about how much change the organization can actually absorb.
Capacity for change.
Right. Your core home is obviously design and transition, making sure services move smoothly from design into live operation, fit for purpose, fit for use.
Okay.
But they also impact deliver and support, coordinating quick fixes, patches, rolling out new capabilities. They feed into improve by implementing improvement actions, They need Engage to communicate changes and get approvals. When components are obtained built, release management packages them up. They touch everything.
Wow. So it's not just about the technical deployment at the end, it's woven into the entire value creation process.
Exactly. Ensuring what gets designed and built actually reaches users, delivers value, and can be refined over time. It really underlines that holistic view of service management.
And how do they connect to the guiding principles of ITIL 4?
Ah, great question. They really embody several of them, turning theory into practice.
Oh, right.
Focus on value. Every change, every release has to ultimately deliver tangible value. You should always ask, why are we doing this? Avoid change for change's sake.
Good principle.
Progress iteratively with feedback. Doing smaller, more frequent changes gives you rapid feedback, lets you refine the product and the process continuously. Think lots of small, safe releases instead of one giant, risky one.
Agile thinking.
Very agile.
Yeah.
Collaborate and promote visibility. These practices demand cross-functional teamwork. And making change schedules transparent, like that forward schedule of change, keeps everyone in the loop. No silos.
Visibility is key.
Optimize and automate. We hit this hard with the DevOps integration.
Yeah.
Find routine stuff, categorize it, automate approval and implementation. Huge speed gains without losing control. Think and work holistically. Consider the whole service, not just the piece you're changing, to avoid nasty surprises elsewhere. Like a new feature might look great, but crash the database if you didn't think about the whole system.
Been there.
Huh, yeah. Keep it simple and practical. Don't build crazy complex processes. Define simple standard procedures for common stuff. And start where you are. Look at your current processes. Figure out what works, what doesn't, and improve iteratively. Don't try to boil the ocean on day one.
Solid advice. So with all this in place, how do organizations actually know if their change and release practices are working well? How do they measure success and, drive improvement?
That brings us right back to continual improvement. You need metrics. You track things.
Like what kind of metric?
To change enablement, you look at the change success rate, what percentage of changes go through without causing incidents or needing rollbacks.
Okay, success rate.
Change throughput. How many changes can you process effectively in a week or a month? And maybe the frequency of emergency changes. A really high number might mean your planning or risk assessment isn't working well upstream.
Indicative of problems elsewhere.
Could be. For release management, you track release frequency, obviously.
Yeah.
Also release outage time, how long are services down during deployment, and mean time to recovery, MTTR, if a release does cause an incident.
How fast can you fix it?
Right. You'd also track the number of failed changes that cause incidents, and maybe even user satisfaction related to changes.
Okay, lots to measure.
By analyzing these numbers, you spot trends, identify bottlenecks or areas for improvement. Maybe PIRs keep showing issues with Friday deployments.
Right.
A continual improvement initiative might be to adjust the schedule policy or beef up testing for Friday slots. It's that constant feedback loop, refining the process, making it more efficient, more reliable, more valuable.
Constant learning and adapting.
That's the essence of it.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've navigated this sometimes complex world of change enablement and release management in ITIL 4. And it seems clear these practices are about way more than just controlling things. They're really about strategically enabling innovation, but doing it safely.
Indeed. And, knowledge is great, but it's most valuable when you understand it and can actually apply it.
True.
Mastering these practices means you're not just ready for a certification exam, you're ready to confidently step into an IT role and contribute to delivering service improvements efficiently.
Making a real difference.
Supporting those crucial business outcomes by getting new, valuable features out there reliably. Honestly, these are the skills that make you invaluable to any IT organization today.
Invaluable skills.
Oh.
So one last thing for you to think about. We heard how ITIL 4 pushes us to optimize and automate. Thinking about your own work, or maybe your studies right now, what's one small, repetitive process or task that you currently do manually? Something you think could really benefit from being optimized, streamlined, and maybe then automated?
Good question to ponder.
And maybe more importantly, what do you see as the single biggest barrier, the main obstacle to actually making that automation happen in your world? Something for you to chew on after this deep dive.